Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd Family a part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. I apologize for having such a dark looking room and for me looking so dark, but it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon here on the East Coast, and when I opened the windows, it was too bright, and I tried to cover up the windows, and it made it too dark. And then when I turned the lights on, the light reflected off the sun, and it made it too bright, and there was just no way to make it look good. So hopefully you see my face enough to where you're okay watching the video without seeing my beautiful smiling face on this Thursday afternoon. But I wanted to come on here and talk some NFL, and I'm going to do that here in a couple of minutes. But first, I have a question, and I thought about this. I guess it was late last night, maybe early this morning. I don't know. I don't sleep much, so all the days and times kind of run together. But either late last night, early this morning, I saw an article that was talking about the Pac-12, who everybody thought was dead and was going away, is now trying to expand and add Fresno State and Boise State, and I forget who else. But anyway, it got me to thinking. I can recall back when the Pac-10 was the Pac-10, and then they made them change their name to the Pac-12 because they went to 12 teams. Why is it when the Pac-10, Pac-12, Pac-8, whatever we want to call it, when they add teams, they've got to change the number in their conference name? If they lose teams, they've got to change the number in their conference name, but yet the Big 10 and Big 12 don't have to. At one time, the Big 12 only had 10 teams, but we still called it the Big 10. The Big 10 now has almost double those amount of teams in the name Big 10, but yet it's still the Big 10. So how come the Big 10 can have 945 schools and it's still the Big 10, and the Big 12 can have 25 schools and it's still the Big 12, but yet the Pac has to be the Pac, whatever number of teams they have in their conference? It just doesn't make sense to me why they make the Pac 8, 10, 12, 6, 7, 9, 11 change their name depending on the amount of teams in the conference, but yet the Big 10 and Big 12 can have 945 teams and they're still the Big 10 and Big 12. It makes no sense to me. I thought about that early this morning, and if you're watching live, feel free to comment anytime you want to. I'll try to read the comments as I go. Hey, fan, nice to have you here. And while you're here, please give the video a thumbs up, like the video, and share the video on all social media platforms as soon as I am done. And if you have not yet subscribed, feel free to subscribe to the channel. We always greatly appreciate it. We added one subscriber named Andy late last night before my video from last night. But today's main topic is the National Football League, because tonight we'll kick off week number 2 in the NFL season. We'll have 2 undefeated teams playing tonight, the Buffalo Bills and Miami Dolphins. The Bills last week, of course, they beat a team that I think is going to be pretty awful. The Dolphins came from behind and beat the Jaguars, so those are 2 teams in the same division, both undefeated, playing tonight to kick off week number 2 of the NFL season. Coming up on Sunday at 1 o'clock, we have the Las Vegas Raiders and the Baltimore Ravens. We have the Los Angeles Chargers and the Carolina Panthers, and I expect the Chargers to win that game because the Panthers are absolutely dreadful. They're hideous. You couldn't find enough bad adjectives to describe how bad the Panthers are. But hopefully for Panthers fans, they at least show up. Last week, that game was over by the time the first quarter ended, and you don't see many NFL games end up like that. But last week was an embarrassment, so I think the Chargers win. But if you're the Panthers, you just want to look halfway decent. Hello, Marcus. Glad to have you here again. If you have not yet subscribed to the channel, please do so. Give the video a thumbs up. While you're here, it takes about 2 seconds to do that. We also have the Cleveland Browns and the Jacksonville Jaguars coming up at 1 o'clock on Sunday. And the Jaguars, as I just mentioned, had a big lead on the Dolphins last week and blew it. And the Browns just looked pitiful. They had the best defense in the NFL last year, and I think it's going to be good again this year. But you've got to get something from your offense if you want to have a good defense. You can't just continuously turn the ball over and punt and expect to hold teams to 10 points. It's just not going to happen. But last week, their offense looked absolutely lost. After the first drive of the game, they didn't even try to run the ball. And Deshaun Watson looked pitiful. I think you could have put a 975,000-pound man in front of him, and he'd have missed him. He was awful. The New Orleans Saints and the Dallas Cowboys play at 1 o'clock on Sunday. Then we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Detroit Lions. And that's going to be interesting to follow Tampa Bay because the Falcons have been picked to win that division because it's so bad. Somebody has to win it. But it seems like every year here recently, when the season starts, nobody has any hopes on Tampa Bay being any good, and they end up being a 9 or 10 win team. So the Bucs may win that division. They looked pretty good last week, but it might have just been their competition from last week. We have the Colts and Packers at 1 o'clock on Sunday. The San Francisco 49ers and the Minnesota Vikings play at 1 o'clock. And a interesting story in case you have not heard from the 49ers game this past Monday. Christian McCaffrey did not play, but it was not nationally known that he was not going to play until, I guess, 4:30 or 5 o'clock Monday afternoon. But their backup, Jordan Mason, went out and had a phenomenal day running the ball, which goes to show you that when I always say that Kyle Shanahan runs a great offense, I'm not just saying that. It's statistically, factually correct. I think he could go out on the street and just find somebody that's never played football in their life and make him their running back, and they would go out there and have 100 yards. I don't know how he does it, but he does it. Anyway, I bring it up because Jordan Mason was asked before the game when he found out he was going to get the start, and he said on Saturday, and of course the game was Monday night, so basically he's saying he found out about 2 days before the game. Well, then after the game, Kyle Shanahan said that was not true. I told him to be ready in case he gets a lot of snaps. I told him to be ready in case he runs the ball a lot, but I never told him he was going to start. So then after the game, they asked Jordan Mason again when he found out he was going to start. He said, "This is why I hate the media. I say one thing to y'all, and y'all take it and blow it out of proportion." So basically, either Jordan Mason's lying or Kyle Shanahan is lying. I honestly think it's Kyle Shanahan. I think they told Jordan Mason on Saturday, "You're getting the start," and the Niners didn't make it publicly known until before the game Monday. But when Kyle Shanahan found out that Jordan Mason had said that, I don't think he was too happy about it. So Jordan Mason tried to backtrack on his comments. We have the Seattle Seahawks and the New England Patriots, the New York Jets and the Tennessee Titans, and the New York Giants and the Washington Commanders. Those are all of the 1 o'clock games from Sunday. And speaking of the Titans, I'm starting to not believe what Will Levis claims. And in case you're wondering what I'm talking about, Will Levis, before he was drafted in the NFL draft, made national news, public news everywhere by saying that he puts mayonnaise in his coffee. Well, I don't drink coffee at all, never have. I can't stand the smell of it, can't stand the taste of it. I despise the bitterness of it. Hey, TGFF, good to have you here on this Thursday afternoon. But anyway, Will Levis came out and said that he puts mayonnaise in his coffee. Now, as I said, I don't drink coffee at all, never have. I can't stand the smell, can't stand the taste, can't stand the bitterness of it. So I don't drink coffee, so I can't compare what it would be like putting mayonnaise in your coffee as opposed to putting regular creamer or sugar in your coffee. But he claims he puts mayonnaise in his coffee. Wrestling and Racing Rules. That's right. That's my weekly podcast I do with my man, JJ, Wrestling and Racing. Check us out wherever you get your podcast. But I'm starting to not believe Will Levis. I think he said that because going into it before the draft, there were people even saying that Will Levis might not get drafted at all. And if he did, it was going to be, sixth round, seventh round, late in the draft. So I think he made up this mayonnaise story just to get publicity, just in case he didn't get drafted. But without me drinking coffee, I can't say whether or not mayonnaise would help. But it seems like mayonnaise in your coffee would just be absolutely hideous unless you just cover it up with a butt ton of sugar. But I think he just made that up just to make sure he gets publicity in case he didn't get drafted. But now he's taking it even further because now he's trying to sell mayonnaise fragrances. So imagine smelling like mayonnaise everywhere you go all day long. That'd be an awful strong smell. But I think Will Levis made that up. That's just my personal opinion. 4:05 on Sunday afternoon, we have the Rams and the Cardinals. 4:25, we have the Denver Broncos and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I can't figure out why people are so big on Mike Tomlin. I know the Steelers have a history of not changing coaches. They've only had 3 coaches in 945 years. So I know that's why Mike Tomlin is their coach. They believe in continuity and they believe in camaraderie and they believe that you can't have continuity when you're changing head coaches every 3 or 4 years. And I get that. And I know Mike Tomlin's never had a losing season. But I think in 13 of his 17 years, he's either missed the playoffs or got beat in the first round. So if you're a Steelers fan, unless you're just happy getting there and getting beat in the first round every year, then you can't be happy with Mike Tomlin. And I believe this year they're going to be the same team. They're going to go 9-8 or 10-7 and get beat in the first round. That's just what they do. Mike Tomlin's figured out as long as he has a winning record and is just good enough to either make the playoffs or just miss it, they're going to keep him around. And TGFF says go Falcons. I think the Falcons are going to be 0-2 after this week. We'll talk about the Falcons here in just a minute. Also, 4:25 on Sunday, we have the Cincinnati Bengals and the Kansas City Chiefs. And the Bengals offense looked awful this past Sunday. If it doesn't improve big time, they're going to lose to the Chiefs this coming Sunday. 8:20 Sunday night. Sunday night football. We have the Chicago Bears and the Houston Texans. And then coming up on Monday night football, the aforementioned Atlanta Falcons will take on the Philadelphia Eagles. And the Eagles offense looked really good against Green Bay. Their defense didn't look so hot, but I think the Falcons offense is just average. So I don't think the Eagles need a great offense to beat the Falcons. And I mentioned this in my NFL video the other day, but if Kirk Cousins doesn't look a little bit better this upcoming Monday night, if you're the Falcons, you have to at least consider playing Michael Penix. I know you didn't pay Kirk Cousins $160 million to sit on the bench, but at the same time, you didn't pay Kirk Cousins $160 million to go out there and suck. And Kirk Cousins has a history of basically being the Mike Tomlin of quarterbacks. Every team he plays for, they're going to go 9-8 or 10-7 and make the playoffs and get beat first round. That's what Kirk Cousins does. He's always done that. He'll always do that. So if you're a Falcons fan right now, you'll be satisfied just making the playoffs. But after a couple of years of just barely making it in and getting beat in the first round, you're going to want something else. But with Kirk Cousins, you're not getting that. He's going to go 9-8, 10-7, make the playoffs, and get beat in the first round. And I don't expect Kirk Cousins to play good on Monday because his numbers and his career in primetime football are absolutely hideous. It's almost like when the lights come on, he has no idea what a football is. But I saw a stat that said this past Sunday, Kirk Cousins only left the pocket one time the whole game, and that is pitiful. He's never been a mobile quarterback, but you've got to be a little bit mobile. But to only leave the pocket one time the entire game is absolutely pitiful. He really, truly is a statue back there. And he was hurt in the offseason. The Falcons claim he's healthy. Either he's not healthy or he's afraid he's not healthy. But you can't go back there and throw the ball and just stand still the entire time. You have to move a little bit. But Kirk Cousins has always been an average quarterback. So when you're an average quarterback and now you can't move, you're a below average quarterback. So I expect the Eagles to win that game Monday night. Any thoughts on any of this, please feel free to let me know. I did see that this past weekend in the NFL, I want to say it was 35 touchdown passes for the entire weekend of games. And there's 30-plus teams. So basically you're saying there was one touchdown pass per team. So the quarterback play in week one was not very good. I think Kirk Cousins is still learning. I think Kirk Cousins is learning, but I've also seen Kirk Cousins enough to know that Kirk Cousins is what he is. He was the same quarterback in Washington, the same quarterback in Minnesota. He's going to put up great numbers against sucky teams, and he's going to put up decent to bad numbers against good teams and win just enough games to make the playoffs and get there and get beat. That's what he does. I saw it in Washington. I saw it in Minnesota. The Falcons, I don't believe, will be any different. He'll get you there, but then once he gets you there, you ain't going anywhere. Better defensive player in the league. Who's that, TGFF? Better defensive player, but it doesn't say who that is. But the quarterback play from this past weekend in the NFL was hideous. Only one touchdown per team. And now they're claiming that it's because the preseason has been cut back. I can recall when the preseason used to be 5 games, and then it was 4. Well, now it's 3. And it may eventually, in a few years, go back to 2 because the NFL is going to go to an 18-game season coming up here in the next handful of years. But now there's only 3 games, and the first game, for most teams, the starters play 1 or 2 series, and for most teams, the second game the starters play the first half, and the third game the starters don't play at all. And that's only for most teams. There are some teams where in the first 2 games the starters play a series or 2. So basically, come the first game, you haven't played real football against real competition in 7 months, 8 months, depending on when your team's season ended. So if all this quarterback blame is now being blamed on low preseason games and low preseason snaps, imagine how bad it's going to be when the NFL does go to an 18-game season, which is coming, by the way. The players on defense are way better than in the past. Offensive teams are struggling against mid-level defense. I agree with that, but I've also seen Kirk Cousins play enough to know that Kirk Cousins just sucks. I mean, there's no way around it. He's decent. He's good. He's going to win enough to make the playoffs, and that's all he's going to do. That's all he's ever done. And for me to sit here and tell you that I believe he's different now, I'd be lying to you. I don't. I've seen it too many times. I know what Kirk Cousins is. There used to be a head coach. His name was Jeff Fisher. And Jeff Fisher coached for 19,478 years. And when he coached, his teams always went 8-8 because Jeff Fisher, he knew football, he talked football, he knew everything about it. But on game day, he couldn't coach. Well, that's kind of the way Kirk Cousins is. He has the game down pat, but on game day, he sucks. He's always sucked. He could go out there against the Panthers on a primetime game and have 75 passing yards. He just cannot play in primetime. I don't know why. He just can't do it. But any thoughts on any of this, please feel free to let me know. Let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. What do you call a belt with a clock on it? A waste of time. And that does it for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3. Tell your friends and family how much you love them. Bye.